Your Majesty here. Hello, everyone. I am doing this long form content because anyone who follows me knows that I like to do short form content, but Spirit told me that I need to do long form content because there are things that I need to download and to tell you guys. And if you're struggling right now in your life, whether it's relationships, finances, or health, the three main top things that people struggle with, this video is for you. Okay? Now I'm going to do a disclaimer. I am not a mental health professional or a doctor. If you struggle with mental health, always seek a mental health professional or doctor. Um, Disclaimer. Now, what I do have is a lot of experience, education, research, and study in regards to certain topics. Now, when you deal with mental health, right, where do you feel it in your body? Okay. At first, we think it in our mind, and then we feel an emotion, right? We have a thought. Let's just say this thought is, for example, I'm never going to make it. And then you start to feel shame or you start to feel anger, right? You have a thought and then you have a feeling within your body. And depending on your coping mechanisms and your habitual routines and habits, you will display and initiate a behavior based on what you feel in your body. And the reason that this is so important and that I want to communicate this is because it all ties in. What you think, how you feel, and how you behave and act all correlates with relationships, with your health, and with your finances. Because in order to have good finances or stable finances, you have to have decent or good relationships. Maybe not perfect, but you have to have relationships. Why? Unless you are an entrepreneur and you work solely by yourself, which is possible, but a lot of times, even if you are an entrepreneur, eventually you will work with your clients. So, no matter what field you are in, you are always going to be in a relationship. We are in a relationship with everything. I am in a relationship with myself. I am in a relationship with my children. I am in a relationship with the stars and the moon and nature, right? In every single thing that we do, we are in a relationship. Now, depending on how we treat that relationship or how we value that relationship, will show up in our day to day life, will show up in our work ethic, will show up on how we show up in this earth realm. So, anyways, this is important because a lot of people deal with mental health struggles, and even influencers that have 1 million followers, they struggle too. Now, they may hide it, right, better, or they may be getting really good help, but they still struggle too. Look at Robin Williams. He was one of the most famous comedic, wonderful soul on this planet, and look what happened to him. He committed unaliving. And that's a prime example that although money is very important, it is not everything, because you can have all the money in the world, but if you don't have healthy relationships and you don't have loved ones to share your money and share those experiences with, you're going to get lonely. You're going to get depressed. And relationships are so important. And a lot of times, people who struggle with mental health or ideations, right? A lot of times, in my experience, they don't want to say anything, they keep it to themselves because they think that if they were to express, hey, I don't want to be here anymore, da, 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 that they are placing burden on other people. Regardless if they think that's true or not, the whole point is if they feel that way, they need to express it and get help. Regardless, whether you go to an institution, whether you go to therapy, whether you go to a 12-step program, whether you get sponsorship, mentors, a coach, regardless, right? It is so important to get help if you are noticing ideations or feelings of lack and that you don't want to be on this earth realm, regardless if you have $1 billion or if you're $1 billion in negative debt. The whole point is what I'm trying to make is that the beginning is your mindset. Your mindset is everything. Because every millionaire that I have ever witnessed, unless they were born as a trust fund baby, which is actually pretty rare, um, most of the time they had it in their mind. They said, I am going to act, and I will no matter what. And they execute on their goals and they keep going no matter what hits the fan, what comes their way, no matter what. They keep pursuing their passion, right? And it's so important. And I'm very passionate about this subject about mental health and addiction recovery and being your authentic self and growing, right? And seeing things in a different lens, right? Because if we only look at things and look at situations in one way, right? In just one way, it's not beneficial. Because remember, if we look at the triangle, there's his side, her side, and then the truth. So it's always good to look at things in three perspectives. Three perspectives. It's so important because it'll help you, right? For instance, like the homeless guy on the street that's asking for food. Your negative part of yourself may say, I don't care, he needs to get a job, right? That's your negative polarity of yourself. But your positive self, right, may say, you know what, let me give him $5 or let me go to the store and buy him some pizza and give him food. And that's your positive self that is wanting to execute those behaviors to help the homeless man. Now, your neutral self may just say, there's a homeless man. I hope he gets the help he needs, which in fact is like a prayer. Because anything that you speak out with good intention does go up to the heavenly realms and it is a prayer. So, it's so important on how we look at life and how we look at things. And the reason why I am passionate about this because I used to be that person where I only looked at things one way. And if it wasn't that way, it was like the whole world was crashing down. It was like everything was chaos, everything was falling apart, right? And I've learned that that's not beneficial, that's not productive, that's not helpful, and that when we grow, right, when we're younger and when we're a teenager, we do and think certain ways, which is understandable because we're still learning, we don't know, right? Things that I know now, I did not know 10 years ago. Had I known the things that I know now 10 years ago, I would be probably a very completely different person. But that's okay. There is a reason. There is a reason that things happen. And even if it was because of my decisions, my choices, and my behaviors, I, Janelle, have to take responsibility for the choices that I made. Now, if I could go back in time and make different choices, would I? Yes. Do I have regrets? No, I don't. There's a difference. There's a difference between, oh, I regret it, because regret comes with shame and guilt and, not accepting what it is at this current time. Now saying, if I could go back 10 years ago and make different choices, I would. But the fact that I didn't, it's okay, because you know what? The reason I didn't make those choices is because I didn't feel like making those choices at that time, and that's what makes me who I am today. And I'm pretty proud of who I am today. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't want to grow. No, of course. People get this wrong all the time. Just because you're your authentic self doesn't mean you don't have a growth mindset. Doesn't mean that you don't want to get better and do better and grow mentally, spiritually, and financially. No, being your authentic self in my version is, yes, I'm at this stage in life. I want to grow. I want to build. I'm building my business. I'm building my career, right? I'm building my parenthood, and I am looking and doing things in a different way. But it also means that my authentic self knows that it needs to grow, right? And part of growth is making mistakes. Even if I don't want to make a mistake, we're going to make mistakes because it's a mistake. Just like accidents, people get into car accidents all the time. People don't purposely get into car accidents. They don't. Just like mistakes. People don't, sometimes they do. Okay? So sometimes people make purposeful mistakes. I've actually made a purposeful mistake, but that was like 1%, not even 1%. That was like just being ignorant and naive. But almost 99.9% of every mistake that I made, it was because it was from an unconscious choice that I wasn't really thinking with my mind. I wasn't thinking it through. I wasn't playing the tape. Okay, if I decide to X, Y, and Z, then this outcome will happen. I didn't think past it. But now, with wisdom and with growth, I know, okay, if I make this choice, this could be a certain outcome, this could be a certain outcome, or this could be a certain outcome. And you have to think about that when you're making a certain choice and you look at all the different outcomes. If you don't like any of the outcomes, don't do it. You probably shouldn't do it. Yeah, you probably shouldn't do it. Um, Now, if there's a certain choice, and yes, with business and entrepreneurship, there's always a risk. There's a risk when you walk outside, when you drive your car, there's always a risk. But if there is a big opportunity and there's an opportunity for you to grow, a career opportunity, a business opportunity, a brand or collaboration opportunity, and 90%, or I would say 2 out of the 3 outcomes is what you really want, I would say go for it, right? Like I have this tattoo and it's the scales of justice. And I love this. I go back to this because at the end of the day, as human creatures, you know, we always do things that we mean to do or we don't mean to do and make mistakes, or, our positive side comes out, our negative side, right? Like I look at the moon as more as like the negative, or like dark, like it's not technically negative, but it's more dark. And then the sun is like more like positive or like light, or they can swap, right? It's just polarity, like one being the opposite of the other. And it's like looking at those scales helps me visualize, Like, okay, what outweighs the other, right? When it comes to relationships, right? Does this relationship, balance out? Do I have more of a do we have more of a benefit in our relationship? Because no relationship is perfect. Okay? Nothing is perfect. Like, yes, maybe as a human race, we are inherently worthy, right? Which some people could say perfect. But in regards to our behaviors, we ultimately, as a species, are always needing to evolve and grow. That is part of the human experience, right? Part of the human experience is going through these different lessons and journeys, and then the goal is transcending and being enlightened, and then also not only just getting enlightened and all about me. It's not all about me, but with my wisdom and my downloads, revelations, and activations, that I may help the next person. Because it not only, yes, it is maybe a little selfish, but not really. It feels good to help. It feels good to help a hurting soul. Like, that is the most rewarding thing. Like, someone who has struggled with addictive personalities, to be able to talk someone off of a cliff or give them uplifting, encouraging information and just compliments and just helping their soul, it feels amazing. And so there is a time and a place and a season for everything. There's a time to be selfish, right? When it comes to your health and your mental health and your boundaries, there's a time to be compassionate. There's a time to be giving. There's a time to be resourceful, right? So there is a time and a season for each of these behaviors and experiences to take place. So, anyways, my name is Janelle, aka Your Majesty, and it is always a pleasure. I love posting these videos. Please comment down below what you think about this video, what you're struggling with, what you're excelling at in life, what you're dreaming of, or just anything that you got, any downloads. Feel free to comment, like, share the video, and I hope everyone has a beautiful, glorious, and miraculous day. Namaste.